Wow, look at you moving around so freely. Too bad I'm trapped inside this camera. Somebody please come free me. It's the Bar for Bar Weekly. So it is the week of February 22nd, 2020. There's a lot of, well, not a lot of stuff, I say this every time. There's a couple of big things that I want to talk about, but we'll go through some of the more minor things first. Just stuff that excited me first, really. So Conway and Benny were on the Fire in the Booth with Charlie Sloth, and if you've been on Twitter and you follow anything that Griselda does and Conway does, you've seen everyone reacting to Conway's freestyle. That man is amazing. I don't have anything to say other than that freestyle was ridiculous. It was only like a minute and a half, but it was still really good. So we also have Dave, who I mentioned Dave before. He's a UK rapper who released Psychodrama last year. He just won Best Album of the Year award at the Brit Awards. So congrats to him. He also performed an unreleased verse. From one of his songs, and then proceeds to call Boris Johnson a real racist, and then criticize the UK media for their treatment of Meghan Markle. So he took his platform and ran with it. It's good to see people actually say stuff when they get the chance to. Like, we've been seeing that a lot more recently with all these award shows. But congrats to him. We've also got a bit of an update on the grime war. So earlier this week, well, let's start from the beginning. If you didn't watch the grime war episode, probably should do that first, but a quick recap is Wiley's been calling out all these people, and basically trying to call himself the king of grime. But no one's having that, so everyone's trying to challenge him. Him and Stormzy had a bit of back and forth, and that continues. So Stormzy, the other day, went to Twitter and challenged him to a radio clash. I'm not too well versed in grime, but my understanding of that is basically it is a rap battle, but it is on such another level because in UK rap that's a really big thing. So Wiley responded basically saying, "Joe, I'm not even in the country. Of course you would ask me to do this now." But in between that, Stormzy also posted a screenshot of these DMs that Wiley has been sending him. And basically Stormzy's like, "Wow, you act all tough when you're drunk, but now when you're sober, you want to say sorry and shit." So he was just basically poking fun at Wiley. I don't know if those screenshots were legit or how serious it was, because I was just looking at a screenshot of a screenshot. But Wiley basically said, "Yo, come do this radio clash instead." Didn't really hear any updates from then, but it's just gonna keep going, I guess. This is a forever thing now. Okay, moving on to some of the bigger news this week. So, starting with last week, YG and Kehlani dropped their joint track titled Conclusions. Oh, that makes sense now. Anyways, that was released on Valentine's Day. A few days later, Kehlani posts a new track on SoundCloud titled Valentine's Day, and then in parentheses, Shameful. And this is like a 5-minute track of her just dragging YG through the mud. It's pretty intense. Like, basically, like, she airs out all these things, like, where, oh, well, I know you've been cheating on me, and, like, you're just using me. And some of the stuff we were kind of already aware of, like, the cheating stuff. But for her to say YG was just using her for clout, I mean, even if YG was the bigger artist, I'm not saying that he is, don't know how much more he would gain from dating Kehlani, like in terms of like popularity. I mean, it definitely softened his image, so more people were like, oh, he's a nice guy. Maybe. I'm just guessing. But I don't think it was to the extent that she thought, like in terms of like how crazy it got. Because in recent years, YG, I feel, definitely has gotten more attention than Kehlani. Just in terms of popularity. But also, this is coming from someone who listens to majority just rap. And Kehlani is definitely more on the pop R&B side. But regardless, this is a really good track. And yeah, it's just like, it's really funny to see that this track dropped a few days after their joint track. But now that I realize that the track was, like the other track was called Conclusions, maybe it makes sense. Maybe this was their conclusion. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws for content. Okay. Moving on from there, a bit of sad news. So, Pop Smoke was in LA and was murdered at his Airbnb. Originally, people thought it was a random robbery because he had posted some gifts and some money, and then this said the address of where he was staying. But then they saw some surveillance footage, and there were, I believe, 4 gunmen, and basically 3 of them just kind of scoped the area, while the 4th one went from the back and basically just walked straight through, and basically there was a few shots and made his way right out to the front. The biggest reason people think this is a hit is because of, one, how quick that was, but also they didn't take anything. They just shot off and then left. But regardless, like, whether it be a hit or like just a random occurrence, like, it's hard to see young artists go like that. But I guess sometimes, like, your past life doesn't really leave you, no matter how big you get. And that's rough. It's definitely rough. I mean, rest in peace, Pop Smoke, and prayers out for your family and friends. Alright, well, we got some releases now. I definitely listened to a lot this week, so I'm gonna give you more opinions on what I thought about these tracks. So, I already mentioned Kehlani's track, but The Weeknd also dropped a track, and he also announced his upcoming album's titled After Hours, and that comes out on March 20th. So the track he dropped was also titled After Hours, and this definitely feels like more of a return to his older style. In fact, when I was driving to dinner once, a couple days ago, and one of my friends was in the car, and I was playing the song. And they're like, "Oh, is this the old Weekend?" I'm like, "No, it's the new." So even for people who are more casual listeners, they can tell the difference. I posted this on my own personal story, not the podcast story, but every once in a while I feel that we get glimpses of his old style and old life. But I think because he's so popular now, he doesn't really go to that side as often. I mean, we did get that on My Dear Melancholy, but if you look at Starboy, like that's all like his own pop shit. Even Heartless and Blinding Lights is more pop, or like at least in my opinion, it feels more pop. I just want dark R&B Weekend. That'd be fun. But seeing as this track is supposed to be like number 13 out of 14 on the album, it's probably safe to assume that we're gonna get more tracks like Heartless and Blinding Lights than After Hours. Also, Party Next Door still hasn't announced when his album's coming out. Another track that dropped was JPEG Mafia's Bald track. I still haven't listened to it, but everyone says it's cool. There's a few more albums that dropped that I still haven't listened to, but I'm still going to mention. Kamaya dropped Got It Made. NBA Youngboy dropped Still Flexin', Still Steppin'. Medane dropped Full Circle. Khan, or K-A-A-N, dropped 29. El Camino and 38 Special dropped Martyr's Prayer, and Mink dropped Deconstruction. The only album I haven't announced or mentioned yet has been Royce's The Allegory. And that is an hour of rap. Like, that man says so many words in an hour. It's, even if you don't like really pay attention to the words and what he says, like the production's so good. I mean, there's definitely a few tracks where it's like, oh, okay, whatever, but like a lot of the tracks are just like, oh wow, Royce is actually a really good producer. So like, I kind of wish he was doing this before. It's also really funny to see like Royce would just be like, I'm like 20 years in my career. I guess it's time to produce now. But the album was really good. A lot of people have problems with one particular line. Basically, I'm going to try to pull it up real quick. It was on the track For Us By Us featuring Conway the Machine. And basically the track that, or not the track, the bar that everyone's really like grabbing onto and like having a fit about is, my son got autism from injections by syringes. No. I doubt it. I'm not going to argue with Royce because I don't want him to fight me, but that's probably not what happened. Regardless, everyone on the internet is just saying like, oh wow, this made this album go from a 9 out of 10 to a 1 out of 10. I can't believe he doesn't vaccinate his children. I thought he loved his kids. Like, come on now. He loves his kids. If anything, you have to take that, what he said there, with context of the album. This whole album is basically like Royce being, I mean, not even like fake woke, like he's being woke, but like from the place of a black man in America. Like, there's always going to be some sort of conspiracy, like whether, well, I mean, if conspiracy is not really necessarily going to be true or proven, but there's a lot of things that are proven too and that are out there. So it's like, oh yeah, no, this is part of it. So like, he touches a bunch of like aspects of racism and stuff like that. So this isn't too far off from what he was saying throughout the album. Like, there's definitely a fear that, like, if I was a black man, I'd be terrified if I was in a hospital and they were just giving me injections. I don't know what you're giving me, especially if the person doing it is white, or if I'm in a predominantly white area. Like, I get it. Like, there's definitely been a history of, like, just black people in general being treated like test animals. Like, that's not, like, that's a thing. So it makes total sense that he would say something like this. I personally don't agree with that statement, but I understand where he's coming from. But the rest of the internet needs to calm the fuck down, because you can't just cancel someone off of one line. Like, we had a whole video about this, like, almost a year ago now, like, keeping the artist and their, like, what they say in their rhymes separate. Like, not every artist is gonna say what they're actually doing in their rhymes. Some people just make shit up. And then some people say one thing in their rhymes and they're just completely different people in real life. So, like, that's just part of it. I'm sure people will get over it eventually, but as of right now, like, that's the only thing I see about the album. And it's really frustrating because it's a really good album. Well, that was my rant about Royce's album. I still liked it. Anyways, I've tired myself out now. I have nothing else to say. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know down below why you think you should vaccinate children. Please don't do that. I don't want to get into that argument. Bye.